Hello and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Barjay.
And I'm Hex. Coming up on the show, we finally open the valve on Portal 2.
And the PS3 gets another S.O.C.O.M, Special Forces.
If there were
I
a bullet
really
piece,
hope that isn't a zombie.
Plus, we check out the alien-filled action of Third Birthday on PSP.
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
I can totally remember never having played that game at all.
To the news!
Good game.
Rumours have been circulating about Nintendo's potential but as yet unannounced next console. Codenamed Project Cafe, the new device will apparently feature backwards compatibility with Wii games, Blu-ray, enhanced motion control and graphics capabilities that exceed both the PS3 and Xbox 360. Several studios, including Ubisoft, Activision and Electronic Arts, have reportedly had development units of the new hardware for some months now. Reports also suggest the Project Cafe controller will feature dual analog sticks as well as a 6-inch touchscreen HD display. Guitar Hero may not be dead after all. When Activision disbanded its Guitar Hero business earlier this year, many, ourselves included, took it to mean the end of the series. However, Activision's Vice President of Developer Relations, Dan Winters, has since clarified the future of the franchise by stating, "We're not ending it, we're just not making a new one for next year." British actor Billy Murray, best known for his roles on The Bill and EastEnders, and to gamers as the voice of Call of Duty's Captain Price, has been arrested. The 69-year-old actor has been charged with assault and will face court next month. The popular Source Engine mod Garry's Mod has managed to get some of those who pirated the game to inadvertently reveal their identity. The creator of the mod, Gary Newman, built an error into pirated versions that stated unable to shade polygon normals, as well as generating an error code which contained the user's Steam ID. When a user posted the error on the official forum, Newman could then double-check the code against legitimate purchasers and permanently ban those who pirated the game.
Good game.
I've always had a bit of a soft spot for S.O.C.O.M Hex. It's got that squad-based strategy that I quite enjoy, and S.O.C.O.M 4 Special Forces is the first true sequel for the PS3, and if you play in PAL territory, you get to play as Aussies.
How do you want to play this?
I want to walk the perimeter of the green zone here, make sure security is up to par.
Shit.
You're in charge of a 4-man and 1-woman NATO squad involved in military duties throughout Asia, so you'll be pushing through lots of tropical jungles and war-torn streets.
Your team is split up into two pairs, close range and long range, and as you move through the maps, you'll pick your way through cover, opening up flanking maneuvers,
Move it!
assigning target priorities, and focus firing when necessary.
When it comes to being shot in the line of duty, it seems that you really are the weakest link because your teammates can be revived, but you can't, and this forces you to make really good use of them. It can be a bit tricky finding the right angle for you to heal a teammate and press that circle button, and if they're near cover, it's almost impossible. In fact, during the last couple of missions, we couldn't heal anyone at all, so you'll pretty much leave most of the medic duties to your AI teammates.
I quite like sending my teammates out into oblivion, but I found it quite difficult to actually assign targets in the midst of a big battle. And this is mainly because no matter how long I stay behind cover, the moment I popped out, I found the enemy would just focus fire on me. And that feels a bit unfair, especially when there are snipers about. On the other hand, even though they do not know how to throw a grenade, the enemy AI is very fun to engage. And the squadmate AI is also quite responsive, and they'll jump in and out of cover when things get too dangerous. Previous S.O.C.O.M games used voice commands to order your squad members about it, and they've taken it out of here, which is a real shame because that was kind of a calling card of the franchise, and I just wanted to yell at my squad.
Yeah, plus you have to take your thumb off the left stick in order to order them with the D-pad, so you can't move and order at the same time. And it's a bit clumsy and it slows down the momentum of combat, which is a shame because the action is good. There's some nice moments where you need to avoid a tank or a helicopter.
I think my favourite was the timed mission escape, which wasn't very hard, but it made you think early on about your strategy for taking down enemies in an efficient way, because you just had to get out of there. Many of the scenarios are very game-like, though. I know it's a video game, but They're very video game-like.
I understand.
You understand? Like this ship that just pounds your location from afar with pinpoint accuracy, which you then take out with just a couple of missiles. Or this tank which just happily rides around in circles until you find a rocket launcher to kill it. They're quite fun and they work for the scenario, but they lack believability, so they just pull you out of the moment a little.
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't mind that so much, Barger. I mean, at least it was clear what I was supposed to do.
What are you...
Every now and then you'll do a recon mission with 45. These are fun but very simple. You can't shoot out the lights and it's pretty much all about staying in the shadows. Only twice do you need to distract a guard by throwing an empty shell casing.
You go there, I'll go here.
I mean, surely it wouldn't have been that much harder to increase the difficulty in a more challenging way rather than just you're spotted once and the mission fails.
I have a visual!
There's just so many parts to this that are quite fun, but it's just one step shy of being really cool.
Yeah, it's a real mixed bag, isn't it? And like in the look of the game, at times, especially in the jungle and the war-torn streets, it looks really good. But then you get to areas that have these very ugly brown and grey textures, or that horrible background blurring effect. I wish there were more camera options too. Also, it feels a bit rigid when you compare it with modern third-person shooters like Gears of War, you know, which has that nice sway and bob to everything. It's just kind of stuck on a dime here. There's a cover system in this S.O.C.O.M, but once again, it's almost there, you know. It doesn't have a slide into cover, for example, and you do spend quite a bit of time waiting for that press circle to enter cover to come up, so it could have been more intuitive, I think. What do you think of the Aussie voices?
Good, I'm in the mood to get up close and personal with some of these tosses.
I think they felt a bit out of place, to be honest. I mean, I applaud the developer for going to the effort of regionalising the accents, but I think it's just that some of the accents didn't quite match with the character models. For example, this guy.
S.O.C.O.M was the best of the best. Smart, versatile. Fast track to the Operations Commander program. This place was already on the verge of a collapse.
It's like those American commercials you can tell they've just dodgily dubbed over with an Australian voiceover. It's just not right.
Yeah, they could have at least changed the models a little bit.
I did like the music though. It was composed by Bear McCreary of Battlestar Galactica fame. Also, Step Up 3D.
You can use the PlayStation Move with this game, and we've been using this guy. You use the move to shoot, of course, but also to camera view change, and you're just always chasing it, and that just gets in the way of the game for me.
Yeah, it's a bit of a novelty, and I think, you know, the move and the Wiimote will always struggle with shooters a bit until we can evolve a third hand or something to control a camera view.
Sadly, we couldn't test out the online features of this game because it wasn't live at the time of review, but there is online versus as well as a 5-player co-op, which might be the best part about the game. Apparently you can string together a bunch of scenarios and then play them out, so we'll have to wait and see and maybe do an update if it so deems importantly necessary. Hex.
It all felt a bit underwhelming to me. I mean, I can see that there's some good, solid, squad-based tactical shooter gameplay there, but there's so many elements of this game that just felt quite undercooked, and I think those weaknesses really hold S.O.C.O.M back from being the big, epic franchise that it wants to be. So I'm giving it 6 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I was expecting a more evolved game from Zipper Interactive. They've been making S.O.C.O.M for 10 years now, but just in the way it looks, you know, and the way you interact with the game, it's starting to feel quite dated. Even so, about 70% of the way through this campaign, I started having a really good time, but then it ended. It's quite short, so I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's time now to tackle a few of your gaming conundrums. First up is this from Skizzy in Adelaide.
Hello Gigi, I've recently bought a game called Gary's Mod, and looking at the achievements, they look nearly impossible. For instance, the Yes, I'm the Real Gary achievement. I need to be on the same server as Gary Newman. How on earth am I meant to do that?
Hello Skizzy, we hear your pain. Technically, it is possible to get the achievement simply by connecting to the same server that Gary Newman, the creator of Gary's Mod, is playing in, but unless he's a Steam friend of yours and you can track which server he's connected to, the chances of randomly coming across him are pretty slim.
Especially considering the other problem, Gary doesn't actually play his own game much anymore, which makes it even harder to nab him. Take heart though, Skizzy, this Chivo is recognised as one of the hardest to get, with less than 1% of players unlocking it.
Well, next is this one from Jordan in Perth, WA.
I much rather prefer a couple of joysticks to a keyboard and mouse, but I really like the PC gaming community. Are there any console-like controllers that can be used for the PC? If so, are they any good and how much are they? Well, Jordan, yes, there is. There's a few solutions. We've had some success with no-name brand controllers, but they're a little bit hit and miss, and they don't work with every game. We haven't tried using a PS3 controller, but we have found very good compatibility results with a wired 360 controller, or you can invest in one of these wireless receivers, which is USB and it just plugs into your computer, and then you can use your normal 360 wireless controller, and that's the best option that we've found.
Well, next is this one from William in Melbourne, Victoria. In my opinion, music is one of the most important aspects of video games. I particularly like the soundtracks of games by Rare Limited, especially ththose composed by Grant Kirkhope, e.g. Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. I was wondering which soundtracks you two liked the most. Thanks, Will.
Well, there are so many amazing soundtracks and scores, so it's pretty hard to choose. Burnout 3 Takedown still has the best selection of racing music I've ever heard. I just love those songs. And the dramatic music in all of the God of Wars really connected with me too, but I'd say my personal favourite has to be Fallout 3. The old-timey music added a maniacal feel to the struggle in post-apocalyptia.
I don't want to set the world on fire.
And it's completely changed all the music I listen to in my personal life too, at least for now. Everything I listen to is now just a mix of Cab Calloway and Danny Kaye and Nat King Cole.
Well, I really love some of the beautiful ambient sounds and simple notes that accompany games like Limbo and Minecraft, and I think I have a similar love like yours of Fallout, but with BioShock. It's got that same period feel with some cool Billie Holiday tracks in there.
I think of you night and day.
It really is that final element that transports you, I think. And while I'm not a regular World of Warcraft player anymore, I have to admit I still love the epicness of the soundtrack, and I play it all the time at home. It kind of makes me feel like even the most mundane chores can be epic, with Seasons of War underscoring everything I do, like cleaning kitty litter.
I clean my kitty litter to the Benny Hill thing.
Next we have this from Scalfy in Brisbane, Queensland.
Do-do-do-do-do.
I've been picturing that all day. Hey, I'm a big fan of the show, wondering whether you would consider introducing more indie game titles and mobile gaming apps into your reviews. As important as massive releases are, they're also the titles that are already receiving the lion's share of advertising and coverage. Cheers, Scalfy.
Hey Scalfy, the simple answer to your question is yeah.
We try on the show to cover as many aspects of gaming as time allows, and we certainly are not restricted to only the AAA big budget titles. You can search for our favourite reviews on indie games such as Limbo, Stacking, Rascals, Minecraft and Magicka, for example, on our website. And we're always open to suggestions of games you think we should take a look at. As for mobiles, well, we agree we should try to do more, and we will very soon.
Thanks very much, guys. Keep those questions coming.
Good game. What is it?
Third Birthday is the follow-up game to the Parasite Eve series that began in the 90s, and being new to the franchise myself, I did a little research. And from my experience with this third-person action-adventure, it's a bit of a departure from its survival horror roots. But to help me along with my lack of story knowledge, the lead protagonist has amnesia anyway, so she's about as up to speed as I am.
The game is set in Manhattan 2013 in the Parasite Eve universe. Aya has no memories, and all we know is she's kind of a cop who has to fight aliens called the Twisted for an organization called the Counter-Twisted. Makes sense.
I can do it.
It all starts out quite straightforward, but then becomes increasingly bizarre, and any hope I had to clinging to some sort of linear story was soon dashed. I just got completely lost.
Yeah, there's sort of time travel and visions, and it all gets quite existential and poetic, but not in a good way. The voice acting is pretty terrible too, and I'm sure in many cases it's just a case of lost in translation, but it made it quite difficult to take anything seriously.
Aya, I know you like what you see, but I'm taken.
While you spend most of this game shooting, the actual shooting doesn't require any skill. The game has a lock-on system, which means you'll pretty much just be holding down the left and the right bumper and spamming enemies until they go down. You have some limited grenades to spice things up, and there's an automatic cover system, but Aya is a bit slow getting in and out of cover, and that gets pretty annoying.
But the game's main mechanic, and the one you're perhaps encouraged to use the most, is the overdive function. Overdiving allows you to teleport to the position of any other ally in the room and take them over. You're still you though, it's kind of like what the agents do in the Matrix. So when taking down a boss or making your way through a room packed with enemies, your best tactic is to overdive from soldier to soldier and keep hitting the beasties from all angles to dodge their attacks.
The game will always show you when a new soldier has entered the room, so you're always aware of new overdiving positions. And furthermore, if you wear down an alien enough, you can sometimes overdive inside them and destroy them from the inside. Gross, but effective.
Overdiving is great, and it's an incredibly efficient way to move through the game. You just hold down left shoulder button and then hit triangle to do it. Combat can be fairly spammy and repetitive, particularly in boss fights, but it's kept interesting with this function. I also like that you could hold lock on and establish a link that would cause your troops to focus fire on an enemy of your choosing. That was really handy.
Focus on the target.
You also have a dodge roll, but 3 of these in a row will tire Aya out. Also, general attacks will fill up a meter, which allows you to trigger liberation. In this mode, you'll fire energy shots instead of ammo, which do a pretty kick-ass amount of damage, and you'll evade enemy attacks automatically too. It also leaves Aya pretty weak at the end of it all, so you'll need to avoid getting hit post-liberation or you'll just be wiped out very quickly.
Yeah, and anytime Aya does anything remotely difficult, you're met with sighs and sobbing. I mean, I was really excited about playing this game because we all know how I love to champion the female lead protagonist, but Aya proved to be a real disappointment. I mean, in every cutscene, she barely speaks. She just does this annoying whimper or a series of squeaks and sighs.
I hear you were able to convince the boss into letting us try and help Cray.
The boss is gone.
I have noticed this in other Square Enix games, but it's particularly bad here. I mean, it's in every cutscene and it even extends to combat and gameplay. I want my hero to be strong and kicking butt with cries of anger and frustration, not, come on, give me a break.
I like that under protective clothing in her inventory, she has distressed denim jeans and a tank top.
Yeah, and as she took damage, it kind of shredded into very gratuitous tatters. Classy. We do have to mention the cinematography and the art, though. It really is quite spectacular. Square Enix have described this game as a cinematic action RPG, and it really is stunning. I wasn't always sure what was going on in the cutscenes, but I was transfixed by every single one. It's beautiful.
Third Birthday is actually built on some essential RPG stat tracking and upgrading. In between missions, you'll be visiting the Counter-Twisted facility, as well as safe rooms and upgrading your weapons, as well as fine-tuning your genetic abilities.
I found the 9-slot stacking of genetic cells a bit tricky to master with the stacking and the combining of different perks. I wasn't really sure what I was doing at first, and I think I wasted a few genes early on, which probably hurt my progress a bit. But if you enjoy this kind of detailed customization, then it's going to add some decent depth to the game for you. But let's wrap this up.
Some of the shootouts got a bit repetitive, especially in the boss fights, but I really enjoyed the overdive mechanic, and I ended up having a pretty good time here, so I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Well, I thought it looked beautiful. Those cutscenes were just amazing, but I found the story was either ridiculously convoluted or frustratingly vague. And Aya, as a hero, was just really lame and underwhelming, I thought, so I'm giving it 6 out of 10 rubber chickens.
If I was going to be shipped off into deep space with just a game or a handful of games, I think like Final Fantasy Tactics would have to be one of them because I think I probably put more hours into that game than anything else, so I'm sure that I could continue playing that ad infinitum.
I'll not take orders from you!
You've quite a mouth on you, princess.
And I'll go ahead and shamelessly say Fallout New Vegas because it's so darn big.
Not everyone can wear the finest clothes and eat the finest foods, obviously.
Oh, I got spurs that jingle.
I got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle.
Right merrily.
I think that would be the only time where you have a chance to actually get through all of the content, in that game.
Thanks for stopping in.
Wonderful in your ultimate.
And then beyond that, maybe I would pull in one of the reasons why I'm working in this industry to begin with, which would be Planescape Torment.
I thought you were a debtor for sure.
So that would be something that I could probably try to play again and again and do it in a number of different ways.
it end like this? You know nothing of power.
Good game.
It's been just under 4 years since we had our cake and didn't get to eat it, but now GLaDOS is back in Portal 2.
It's been a long time. How have you been?
Okay, here's the deal. The game is brilliant and you should play it. We're going to do our very best not to spoil any of the puzzles for you, but if you really want your experience to be untainted, then you might want to go somewhere else for a couple of minutes. But for those of you who have chosen to stay, Portal 2 is what gaming should be all about.
If you liked the first Portal and you thought that was brilliant, then prepare to have your mind blown, because Portal 2 makes the first game look like the student project that it started out as. Hex, I don't even know where to begin to start raving about this game.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job starting the raving, but the main campaign's probably a good spot.
Good thinking. You are back in the shoes of Shell, the protagonist from the first game. And after waking up some years after those events and going through what is without a doubt the best tutorial ever...
This is art. You will hear a buzzer. When you hear the buzzer, stare at the art.
You're quickly introduced to your new buddy, Wheatley.
Do you understand what I'm saying at all? Does any of this make any sense? Just tell me, just say yes. Okay, what you're doing there is jumping. You just jumped. But never mind, say apple. Apple. Okay, you know what? That's close enough. Just hold tight.
And then you're off to escape Aperture Science once more.
Badge, I loved Wheatley. He's such a great character and he's played brilliantly by Stephen Merchant from Extras and The Office. And you know, despite him being another deranged AI, he somehow adds a real touch of humanity throughout, and he's the perfect chatty companion to complement GLaDOS's passive-aggressive logic.
Plug me into that stick on the wall over there, yeah? And I'll show you something. You'll be impressed by this. Yeah, I can't do it if you're watching.
Yeah, the writing and voice acting is spot on. There's so many genuine laugh-out-loud moments and so many great characters.
Well done. Here come the test results. You are a horrible person. That's what it says. We weren't even testing for that.
Especially when you first meet up with GLaDOS. She's a woman bot scorned, and you hear that in her tone, and she's been building resentment for a while and takes a bit of time to let out that frustration. She even brings mums into it.
If it makes you feel any better, science has now validated your birth mother's decision to abandon you on a doorstep.
Yes, but the writing would be nothing without some seriously brain-destroying puzzles, and thanks to a bunch of new contraptions, your brain's going to be hurting in all new ways.
Yes, there's still plenty of cube and button-based testing, but now you'll also have to deal with spring pads, lasers, light bridges, goo, and tractor beams. And then you'll have to put them all together with portals. The puzzles are perfect as well. You'll never rage quit this game because you know you have all the tools you need to get through it. And you've always got a plan that you can test, and you just keep on testing, and then eventually when you do get it, you feel heaps smart.
Yeah, and I felt like there were just a few more visual cues as well in terms of where to place your portals, and the levels are just beautiful as well. The world feels alive, and you'll be seeing the Aperture Science complex in a whole new way. You gotta hand it to the old Source engine. There are some mighty impressive moments here, and I just love going to town with the goo.
It's just everything I wanted it to be and more. It's the perfect length, and they fleshed out all the characters, so I cared about everyone, big and small.
Don't make eye contact, whatever you do. No, thanks, we're good. Appreciate it. Keep moving, keep moving.
We couldn't find a single glitch here, and the moment I finished it, I started again.
But you had to put that on hold because we had some co-op to do. You and a friend can step into the shoes of the little robots Peabody and Atlas to help GLaDOS test science in a completely separate and lengthy campaign, which you can do either online, LAN, or split screen with consoles, and even cross-platform with PS3 and PC. And Badge, Portal is the game that has the ability to get non-gamers into gaming, so it's really great that you can sit down and do some split screen with them.
Yeah, of course, twice as many players means twice as many portals and twice as many problems, but you do have some tricks to help you out. You can mark any spot on the map for your partner to look at or place a portal on, and with just a press of a button you can get a picture-in-picture view of what they can see. There's also a countdown you can start when you need a bit of coordinated timing.
You'll definitely want to have a good and preferably smart friend with voice chat or in the same room to play with though. Some of these stumped us much more than the single player puzzles, and being able to talk them through will save you a lot of time. Of course, you may also waste time making life difficult for each other though.
Yes, you definitely want to play with someone you can trust. Whee! Go for it.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
No! Can you just wait a second? No, wait. Roger, stop it!
Sister, babe.
Get away, get away, get away! No, 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 no! The co-op storyline is set just after the single-player storyline, and while it's not as story-heavy, the writing carries over perfectly. Glados is even funnier when she's got two people to rip on.
Very good. You've really come together as a team, thanks to the one of you who appears to be doing all of the work.
And I noticed at times she said different things to us at the same time.
Orange, do you feel betrayed by Blue for telling me those horrible things about you?
Yeah, and I loved how responsive she was. I mean, she praises you if you do well.
Orange receives 5 science collaboration points.
I love how you can get a rise out of her with gestures.
You're going to hurt yourself doing that, and then I will be ecstatic.
And they really managed to make you care about those little robots too. They're just so emotive and full of life and, dare I say it, cute. We reviewed this mostly on 360, but we have played it on all platforms, and the PC and PS3 versions get a robot enrichment feature. Basically, it lets you unlock hats and stuff for the robots, and even a store where you can pay for them if you're into that. It's a nice feature, and it's a bit weird that it's not in the 360 version, but it's also quite overpriced, I think, for just some skins. Anyway, final thoughts?
Well, I think the only bad thing I have to say about this is that there were no challenge chambers, but I'd take the extra attention to detail and story over a few challenge rooms any day, and I'm really glad that they chose to focus on a good, solid co-op campaign rather than just some half-baked multiplayer. So I'm gonna have to give this 10 out of 10 rubber chickens. It's just one of those amazing gaming experiences that I'll never forget.
Yeah, it's a perfect game. It's 15 hours of solid fun, and my only real complaint is that there's not much replay value because once you've done the puzzles, you know how they work. But just that humor, Hex, it just won me over. So I'm giving it 10 out of 10 as well. Yay!
Double 10 balloons!
Double 10 balloons!
Double 10 balloons.
Yay!
Good game.
So did you guys guess the game for this week? Do you know what it is? Did you guess it? It was the very first Parasite Eve on PlayStation from 1998. The game was actually a sequel to a book of the same name, exploring the concept of symbiotic life forms, with a bit of icky spontaneous combustion thrown in. It's also a prequel to the third birthday.
Coming up next week, it's a bit of a good game special as we celebrate the highs and lows of video game superheroes.
I can't wait to put on my underpants for justice.
So much lycra.
To everyone who tweeted along tonight with the hashtag GGTV, and don't forget you can drop by the forums or the Facebook page to give us your thoughts on the show.
Till next time, gamers, may all your loading screens go quickly. Hex out.
Barjo out.
Portal 2 co-op.
Yeah.
Brown pants.